On May 10th, 2018, the national press and the public erupted in dismay, terror, and fascination in response to videos released by Boston Dynamics. These videos showed two robots, and they evidenced the technological revolution that was taking place in our country. What was evident from those videos is that we are already in a new era. Artificial intelligence and automation are transforming the world of work in ways unprecedented in world history. So to show you how alarming, and yet in the words of one of my favorite TV characters, Dr. Spock, fascinating these videos were, I'm going to show you some of the excerpts. The first is a video of a robot in the form of a human. The second robot is a robot in the form of a canine dog. And look what this dog is able to do, not only to help himself, but to help his buddy. So you can see the possibilities of automation. And one thing that is very clear is that robots will be able to perform at rates and at capabilities human beings simply cannot do. When I started thinking about employers, I was thinking, well, you know, where are robots going to be in the workplace, and how do they affect our ability as humans to navigate the workplace? I certainly don't expect to see robots at our annual job fair, at the table, asking about benefits for health, dental, flexible spending account, and workman's compensation. So as you can see, robots present a cost-saving mechanism for employers. Now, if you think about it, if robots don't need these benefits, then what happens to the people who administer the benefits, like the Human Resource Department and other departments which support workforce? Clearly, you can see that there may be, in the future, elimination, if not elimination, of total departments which we rely on in our everyday life and contemporary work. So in response to these videos, I started to think about the impact of automation on the nation. And my colleague, Dr. Elena de la Vega, and I wrote an article titled, "The Robots Are Ready, Are We?" Now, I'm going to give you the long and short answer to that question. The answer is no. We are not ready for this technological revolution, but we can get prepared. Nothing prevents us from having a workforce where humans also work and we accompany and complement the work of automation and robots. So let's go through some statistics. Experts predict that up to 47% of the jobs in the United States will be eliminated in the next 2 decades due to automation. In Tennessee, 50% of the jobs, or 50% of the workforce, or 1.4 million jobs, are expected to be eliminated or transformed by automation. Now, the jobs that are at most at risk are the jobs on the lower skill set. The evidence is clear on that. But I want to be also clear that no occupation, no group, no gender is excluded from this automation tsunami. There will be robots, as you know from looking at the popular press, who perform surgery. There are robots who will be driving vehicles. There are robots who will be handling mass transportation. There are robots already who are helping with policing. You think about drones and surveillance cameras. So the possibilities are endless for how robots can be used. However, robots and automation will disproportionately impact minorities and the poor. This presentation focuses on the impact of automation on minorities. But when I say minorities, often in many places you can substitute the word for minorities and you can substitute the word poor. Memphis is a perfect example and perhaps a harbinger of the future for cities like it of the impact of automation. Memphis is a minority-majority city. That is, about 64% of the population is made up of African Americans. Hispanics comprise 6.8% of the population, and whites 30% of the population. Now, in terms of jobs, minorities in Memphis disproportionately hold jobs concentrated in the manufacturing, production, and material moving occupations. These are the jobs that are most susceptible to being automated and are in fact being automated. If you go into any cutting edge factory today, you will see, instead of human beings lining up the assembly line, you will see a line of robots. Now here is how the numbers break down. African Americans make up approximately 24% of production, transportation, and material moving occupations. We make up 70.2% of food service preparation and other cleaning jobs. For Hispanics here in Memphis, although they're 6.8% of the population, about 22% of them are in service jobs and 12% are in food service preparation. Now, Memphis is not alone, obviously, in being a minority-majority city. There are other cities in the United States who have similar characteristics, and those cities include, but are not limited to, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, Chicago, and Las Vegas. Additionally, there are cities in the US which are majority cities, and that is cities where the population is majority white. In those cities, there's a high concentration of manufacturing jobs. And like the cities that I just named, those cities also face the automation tsunamis, and there's a concentration of jobs in the lower level skill set, which are most vulnerable to automation. So if we don't do something about this, we have a crisis on our hands. We have the potential to aggravate our poverty levels in ways unprecedented in modern times. But there's some good news. They're robots. We're people. And we can always do things, plan, work together, create legislation, have policy and strategic tactics to make sure that the society that we live in is inclusive and creates opportunities for all people. So what are some possible approaches to addressing this automation tsunami? And I want to be clear, we shouldn't be afraid of automation. Automation has the opportunity to make our lives better. In fact, I'm sure some of you left your home and turned on your little vacuum robot before you came here. And so when you get back home, you expect your floors to be clean, so you're already using a robot. And if we could create a robot to cut your grass, there'd be a stampede out the door. So robots and automation have a role to play in modern American life, and other nations are going to embrace this. So automation is not going to go away. The question is, how are we going to manage it? So first of all, we need to start community conversations like this. This is absolutely important because in our communities, we need to understand in our homes, in our churches, in our community gatherings, when we have conversations with politicians, we need to understand the basis of job elimination. And this is really critical. Why is it critical? Because we don't want tribalism. We don't want people saying, well, the other or some groups are taking our jobs. That, in fact, is not happening. It's not happening here in the United States, and it's not going to be happening around the world. The person taking your job, you know, there's a popular episode on TV like the dingo ate my baby. Remember that saying? Well, the dingo is not going to take your job. It's going to be a robot. All right, so we need to be clear about what the source of job elimination is. Secondly, we need to look at our educational opportunities. Everyone is clear that we must have a very well-prepared workforce to deal with this automation tsunami and the advancements in artificial intelligence. We can do that by making sure that our workforce has access to higher education, applied technology, and even vocational training. We must make sure that these opportunities are available not only in wealthy areas, but also in rural areas, in poor areas, and in urban areas. It's important that all people have access to these educational opportunities. Third, we're going to have some innovation, creative thinking, coalitions among the corporate sector, private sector, community activists, and the federal government. It's inevitable. Corporations have a very important role to play here. They understand what their workforce needs are in the future. They understand and assess the quality of workers that they currently have. They know what they want in the future. They also have lots of money, and they can strategically direct those resources to education and training and to communities that would benefit and enhance the quality of work coming out of these corporations through workforce development. The federal government, working with state government, universities, and the private sector and NGOs, clearly has a leadership role to play that cannot be substituted by any other entity. The federal government, our government, represents us, and its responsibility is to us. The federal government has the power of taxation. The federal government will also have to consider some safety nets that in today's world have been rejected or scorned at by some groups. The bottom line is, some people will not be able to find employment despite their best efforts, and they will encounter sustained long-term unemployment. To address that, we need guaranteed minimum incomes, we need universal health care insurance. Now, that may not go over well now, but when you have 47% of the United States population impacted by automation, the country may see this issue differently. Third, the government needs to look at nation building in the sense of its workforce. The United States took on a leadership role in transforming Japan and Europe after World War II, a devastating war, and essentially helped to rebuild those nations. If the United States can rebuild those nations, it certainly can rebuild this nation's workforce. The automation tsunami is upon us. It's nothing to be afraid of, but we need to make sure that each of us are prepared to go through this revolution and make sure that our country is racially inclusive, indivisible, united, and prepared to go through this automation tsunami united. Thank you.